So I'm just hanging out on the streets of Pittsburgh. I just moved here about 2 weeks ago. The first thing, if you've never been to Pittsburgh, one of the most noticeable things is that it's hilly. It's hilly, and the houses are kind of close to each other. I gotta say, it's a very interesting city to walk around in. Sort of the vibe of the neighborhood can change very quickly. Things change from commercial to residential here pretty quickly. This may be something that people here just made up, but they say here that Pittsburgh is the Paris of the Appalachians. Appalachians. So I don't know. It's got an interesting feel to it, for sure. It's fun to just kind of walk around. One of the things that's very striking to me is a lot of people have these really severe slopes in front of their houses, and erosion is a really big problem here. So you see things like retaining walls, or like the house where my wife and I live, where there's just basically steps, pretty serious steps going up to get to the front porch, and no lawn. We got a little bit of a lawn in the backyard that I'm of course going to be turning into a garden. But so there's a lot of kind of interesting space and use of space around here, and I gotta say, it's a fun city to walk around in. It's also a workout. I was bitten by a dog yesterday in the butt, and it kind of hurt. I don't know that like some states have these rules that if a dog breaks skin, then you can kind of like sentence it to death. I don't wish that upon this dog. If anything, I wish it to live. Oh, there's a deer. So there's a deer right there. I've seen quite a few deer, especially up here, kind of more in the hills. And that's a pretty common thing around here, it seems like. Let's just take a look up the street here, as you can see. This is, kind of nicer neighborhood. These are all quite old houses. Houses around here are about 100 years old, I think, on average. And so that has certainly been a learning experience with my wife at our house, which is, generally in pretty good shape, but there are these, sort of things you have to think about when you have a house that's that old. For example, electricity, they weren't using the electricity. They weren't using electricity like we do now back in 100 years ago. The wiring, is kind of minimal. There's not as many outlets in the rooms as we would like there to be a lot of times. In our bedroom, for example, I think there's only one outlet. So it's a little tricky. There's two outlets, but it's not like where we used to live, where we had a sort of an outlet for each of our bedsides. I mean, Kentucky had its quirks as well. In terms of, in Kentucky, the thing there is that you will have an outlet that's controlled by a switch somewhere. Not a light switch per se, but a switch that's supposed to turn the outlet on and off. And there's no ceiling lights. Electricity doesn't seem to be run to the ceiling in our house very often. So we at least have ceiling light. But anyway, yeah, it's just kind of fun to walk around here. Shall we just hang out and see what's going on? One thing I've noticed is a lot of additions like that. So you have a real traditional brick kind of blocky shape, and then people have made additions that are not in brick. Real big slope in front of the house. What you will see, I'm surprised you haven't come across this yet, because it's very common, is that people will put landscape fabric in front of their in these erosion prone areas. So here's just a ridge. See, there's some houses down there. But then across the way there, more houses and businesses just built up onto these hills. So they're just trying to build on as many hills. You know, this is kind of like Japan in that respect, in that, you know, this is, you know, popular real estate, but that they kind of pack it in. Wow, here's a really severe driveway. Yeah, lots of houses built on ledges. And if you're building on a hill, chances are you will want your front door to face the ledge and not face up the hill. That's just kind of how it tends to work. But anyway, yes. Cool city to walk around in. Seen a lot of squirrels. Haven't seen any rabbits. Apparently there's a lot of coyotes here. So that'll be interesting. Check out the slope on this one. Right? Wow. You get in shape just walking around. Okay, so here's someone's garden. As you can see, it's like walled off. With the deer here, that might be what it comes to, you know? Who knows? But I see a lot of those. I see a lot of cages in this neighborhood around their gardens. I'm not sure if they'll come to my neighborhood. I guess we'll just have to see. But, you know, it wouldn't be too hard to build a little cage. But, you know, you could also apply perhaps some, you know, landrace principles to select for sort of deer-proof genetics somehow. Might be interesting. And that sort of thing, you know, is that with landrace breeding, you can kind of think your way around certain problems, select your way around certain problems, and have elegant solutions sort of manifest to you. So that's certainly exciting. Here we are, another sort of severe ledge there. Here's a row of houses. You can see that right up the hill there. They're really just taking advantage of space here. But look at this ledge. certain flowers are coming up. Okay, here it is. The landscape fabric that's supposed to prevent erosion. I don't know, it does still seem to be happening. See that? I mean, this would be something really interesting to try and develop some sort of landrace solution to. It certainly seems like something that people have a use for. I mean, there's got to be, you know, a micro industry here of people who are just taking care of slopes like this. And it seems like something that would be an interesting challenge. You know, and there's things that you could do that were highly sort of human dependent, and maybe some things that, you know, are maybe a little less dependent on humans. But you can see that, you know, trees, you know, are picking up wherever they can. I'm really excited for, you know, it's almost spring here. It's 72 degrees today. It is April 4th, I think. Yeah, it's 4/4. Here is a stone street. You see these especially on the steeper streets, and they look great. Here's some more houses up on hills. It's an interesting city to look at. It is not cookie cutter, you can definitely say that. And there really is a wide degree of variation between sort of houses that are sort of just scraping by, you know, and houses that are quite well maintained. You see funky stuff. The neighborhoods are still kind of funky. Here we have a bunch of rocks as a solution. I mean, it seems as though the main thing you want to be doing is to not let rain hit bare soil. Like anywhere else, it's just exaggerated when you it's exaggerated when it's on a slope. Erosion will just happen more quickly. And, you know, it's like you can't very reasonably put a lawn here, but you do want something to be growing there. You don't want it to be overgrown, although why not? Okay, so here's some actual lawns, and they seem to be doing all right, although it just seems like it would be a pain to mow. Or that, you know, stepping in it would make it sort of prone to erosion. That's what it seems like. Oh. There's another. Is that an addition? Maybe. Got a speed bump right there. Here's an interesting addition. Pretty cool looking house there. We're starting to get into where the houses look a little fancier. Okay, elaborate irrigation pipes. I'm seeing quite a few of those pipes. There's some more landscape fabric. Right? It's like, well, you get a house and it comes with a big slope in the front. What are you going to do with it? city. But yeah, look, it's a serious logistical issue here for sure. Oh yeah. For those of you who are on my Instagram, there it is, floating log. So I guess it's on that sort of more sturdy wire that's just there to support the other one. Whoa. Okay, look at all this. I wonder if people open it up. I guess you want to have something kind of showy during the summer, but then you're going to get erosion if something's not growing there during the winter. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just sort of a cover crop kind of situation. Something that can get in there and really take over quickly, take root, maybe even sort of share roots at the same time. All right, so you see a lot of people doing ivy, but it'll still be prone to erosion unless it's got some serious cover on it. So it's kind of interesting, yeah, to see sort of what the visual culture is around here as far as living space. Guy taking off on a motorcycle, badass. It's probably a nice day for a motorcycle ride. This is kind of interesting. It's like a little barn. Maybe some orchard, is that what that is? Got a parking lot. Science is real. I would say that's the one statement that kind of gets my goat the most about science like that. Just because it's like, I guess, whose science? Eli Lilly's science? How far are we taking this? What was the, it's also, when you see a Black Lives Matter sign in a neighborhood this expensive, it's kind of like, someone already covered this on the internet. It's like Black Lives Matter sign or all are welcome sign in a neighborhood where the average house is $1 million or whatever, right? You do tend to see a lot of sort of that kind of sign in certain neighborhoods as opposed to others. Interesting house. Okay, yeah, now we're getting into a kind of fancier part of town for sure. Just look at these slopes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how people mow places like this. I would imagine, my guess is it's guys with weed trimmers who just do it on foot. Which has got to be kind of, an expensive feature of a house. These are kind of interesting in that they all share, there's only one sort of stairway up to them. Duplex row houses. Very cool. Pittsburgh has a very cool accent. What you do with a Pittsburgh accent is as I understand it from the language coach guy on YouTube, he says that the diphthong ow gets turned into a so like downtown would be downtown. Couch, catch catch. A famous thing they say here is jagoff. There is a restaurant that we went to that was called Gough', Jagoff's, which, if you say it, sounds like how people here say jagoff. Okay. So I don't know. There's just a lot of interesting stuff like that here. A lot of idiosyncrasies. It just doesn't seem to function like other towns. There's some pretty strange rules, or sort of lack of rules, as far as alcohol. For example, I walked into a gas station and there was a sign up that said you're only allowed to drink 2 beers while you're sitting here. And there was like a little, I don't know, maybe 8-10 seat area for people to. It also said you had to buy something to eat to be able to be drinking beer. Anyway, so you can drink 2 beers at the gas station as long as you buy food with it. So that's cool. And then I walked into the grocery store and saw like some college students drinking beer inside the grocery store. You have to pay for the beer at a different place than you do your groceries. And there's a little table, and there were people just chilling, having a beer at the grocery store. So who wants to have a beer at the grocery store? It seems like a great idea, right? They're definitely cold when you buy them. Okay, so what else is weird or interesting about Pittsburgh? Again, I just came here 2 weeks ago. I'd only really been to Pittsburgh maybe a couple other times, 2 times I think. And both times were to play a rock and roll show at a venue here called the Brillo Box. Both times, it was with 2 different bands, but we both played at the Brillo Box. Anyway, I'm gonna cut down. It was a little trafficy. Birchfield Street. We were just on Beechwood Boulevard, which is kind of famous street here in Pittsburgh. People know Beechwood. Okay, so going downhill, we have some sakura blooming here, cherry blossoms perhaps, or something. But yeah, some spring blossoms. Really stoked to see what it looks like here when it kind of fills out, you know, with the greenery. I mean, because there's trees everywhere. And when you're driving around town, you constantly just see trees getting worked on. There's always a tree crew just blocking 1 lane of traffic somewhere at all times. And that's fun. People just know how to move on here, is what it seems like, which is cool, you know? So nice big old houses here, close to each other. I feel like this would be a fun city to live in if you were a kid, because it would be easy to find other kids nearby, and it's quite walkable. There are houses that have slopes as their front yards, and there are houses that have slopes as their backyards. But it seems like most people are dealing with slopes. I wonder what it was like 100 years ago. I've looked up some pictures, and one thing that sort of surprised me is that it actually looks quite barren in the old days. They just cut down all kinds of trees. I don't know, yeah, maybe they wised up or just sort of replanted them as they came up, as the neighborhood got older. But don't see as many pickup trucks as you do in Kentucky. The pickup truck phenomenon is very funny to me because it seems to be sort of playing into this quirk of the male identity, which is that it's like it's easy to trick men into buying stuff that makes them seem cool or tough. Lots of cool little alleys. There's one, there's one. There's a guy, a famous YouTuber, who over the course of, I think, 16 years, ran every street in Pittsburgh. He jogged down every street in Pittsburgh. So it is possible. Tom7. He's like really famous. He lives here in Pittsburgh. Shady Avenue. Birds are chirping. The vibe is good. Gotta say, it's a very interesting place to live. I've lived in, relatively small cities most of my life. Certainly nowhere like this. Certainly nowhere that's the Paris of anywhere. Is Bloomington the Paris of Indiana? Maybe. I don't know. But this is just, I don't know. It's cooler. It's older. It's hillier. What an interesting city. So over on that side, coming out of a more residential area, and you'll see off in the distance here is a major thoroughfare, and then zoom out again, and you're back in residential. So things can change here pretty quickly. We'll walk up another hill. It's an interesting driveway. Big rocks on the side, asphalt in the middle. I guess that makes sense. Black Lives Matter in Hebrew sign. It seems like there's a pretty significant Jewish population around here. Orthodox as well. So that's kind of cool to see. A lot of glass bricks. Maybe not so much in this neighborhood, but I feel like there's a lot of glass brick in this town. And normal brick, regular brick as well. I think this is a school. Yeah, here's a school. Nice slope here. You should probably do this on a riding lawnmower if you just went back and forth this way. Although, I don't know, you'd really be going off to one side. We support our police. Boo. Cuck mentality, right? No, I don't know. Who do the police serve? Let's just say that. If you think the police are your friend or protecting your way of life I would encourage you to think again. See the real big picture. There's some glass brick. Okay. I knew it would come. There it is. Behold. Glass brick. Yeah, on two sides. Yeah, there it is. Check it out. There's a lot of glass brick in Pittsburgh. And I'm here to find it. There's some more. There's some more. Oh, a Neko-chan. Look at that. Hey, kitty. Do you know our cat? Might, you know. I don't really know how they communicate, you know, or if they communicate. What is communication? Chomsky says that language is the externalization of thought. Communication is just something that you get as a kind of bonus, and it's it doesn't always work all the time. It's a matter of more or less rather than yes or no. But the language is the external representation of the categories that sort of, as humans, project on the world. All right, it's about to get a little loud here, so I'm going to turn off. Okay, I just crossed Beechwood again, and now we get into kind of a different looking part of town. You can see that it is like a little less wealthy looking, I guess would be one way of putting it. There's some more glass brick. Good to see it. There seems to be some kind of altercation going on here on the street. I'm trying not to gawk, but Homer's Automotive Service, but some more houses, kind of in a similar vein to what we were looking at before. Here is Giant Eagle. Local grocery store. This is Murray Avenue. I'm gonna cross the street in another neighborhood here. Check it out. What's going on with those people earlier? They definitely, something was up. But it was like 3 high school boys and their parents or something, and then they're talking to this old black couple intently in the middle of the road. Okay, so here we have, I think, a quintessential sort of Pittsburgh view, which is a bunch of houses, all pretty close to each other, on a street that just goes up a hill. Look at what they've done with this tree. They're just chopping around it, which is cool, you know. They respect greenery here, it seems. I could get on board with that. Check out the moon. Just cool views, you know, everywhere you look. Let's see. Like just off in the distance in any hill, you can kind of just see a bunch of houses. Same here, pretty much anywhere you look. So similar kind of sleepy neighborhood vibe. But here you'll start to see, you know, houses that are really well taken care of and ones that are maybe not. And this could be, you know, people who own the houses versus rentals. I wish there was a map that I could access to have that kind of information, because I would be interested in knowing that, right? is there any correlation between the way houses look and whether they are owned or rented. They're very simple houses, and you'll just see, you know, outliers in the middle as well. Houses that are really well taken care of or looked like they've been sort of recently renovated. It's cool to see people's backyards. There's some good backyards in this town. I mean, it would be fun to see people kind of hanging out in their backyards during the summer. It should be interesting to see what it's like here. Smell a lot of weed around here. Oh wow, yeah, so here's pretty intricate thing they've done. Is there something on my lens? Hang on. It's like, why does everything look so cool right now? Everything looks like indie. Okay, so there's some smaller, less sort of ostentatious houses there, all just in a row. So, pretty cool scene. Lots of vines. It seems that nature seems to be doing just fine growing up through Pittsburgh, you know, which has a history of being kind of a neglected city. A sort of big boom and then a bust. I think so. There's a pretty massive population decrease at a certain point when all the sort of manufacturing jobs went elsewhere. And so there's some kind of interesting things that people are doing as far as rebuilding, renovating, and sort of rethinking. Seems to be a pretty creative city. Certainly there's a lot of diversity, a lot of spontaneity. So it's an exciting place. Haha, there it is. Jagoffs.